Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Chat Inbetween, and we are here with Colin from church. Hey, Colin, how you doing?
Hey, man, I'm good.
Yeah. Nice to see you. We've just been chatting beforehand, so this is all fakery anyway.
Follow the script.
Colin has been with us for 7 years, and he's a really great part of our church. He's been part of the youth work, Sunday school work. He's on a strategy group, and he's just generally a good egg and been a brilliant member of our church for 7 years now. Colin, what do you do in real life other than church?
My job, my serious things in life. I'm a substance misuse liaison worker.
And what does that entail?
So I work in GP surgeries doing psychosocial and pharmacological interventions for people with drug and alcohol problems. So I do prescriptions and I do one-to-one sessions when I talk to people and try and get them on a journey of becoming free of problematic drug and alcohol use.
And over the last 10 months, COVID, you've been an essential worker all the way through.
Yeah, I haven't had any days off. Still, I mean, it was a bit strange at certain times when we weren't allowed to see people in surgery, but because we're printing prescriptions and we're working on the NHS database and NHS systems, the notes need to be on the system quickly.
Yep.
So I've worked every day, haven't had a day off.
Amazing.
I'm glad.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I was lucky. I'm not lucky, but fortunate to obviously with my job be working for most of it. I mean, I'm on furlough for the first time just because it's a winter month and it's a bit quiet and Bethany's at home and Heather goes to work. But yeah, how do you see it's impacted that people group then? Has it been hard for them? Has it been the same for them? I mean, how have you seen things unfold for them? These are like the invisible people, aren't they, that nobody ever thinks about really in many ways.
Well, yeah, the people that even when people see them, they try not to think. They can be very visible. They can be apparent in people's lives, and they're all around. But it's easier to walk past and not. And I understand that not have to think where they're at and why they're at that certain time in their life. And I don't believe, I've said this to you before, that I don't believe that anyone went to the careers officer at 13 years old and said, I want to be a drug addict sitting in the beer pit at 4 o'clock in the morning trying to get a needle in my toes with crack and heroin in it. I don't think that's what people do.
No.
But at COVID, there's been a kind of divide and a kind of split. Some people have gone, right, I can't go out. Really, if I'm going to be responsible and productive, this is an opportunity for me to stabilize, so stop the on-top heroin and crack use and stick to my script.
Yes.
And reduce. And people are doing that. And they're doing okay, but they tend to be the people that have more of a network of support around them, especially in the home. But then there's the other side of people who a lot of my clients will be sitting in tower blocks. Down Little Cross House or in Barton Hill. Isolated, lonely, scared. They may only have food 2-3 days a week because they're spending money on drugs. They may not have gas or electric. They may be getting bullied. They may be getting robbed. They may be getting manipulated. And what I'm finding is that across the board with it's the mental health. People will say to me in telephone consultations, they're okay, and I get a kind of feeling that they're just
saying the right words.
Yeah, and then I get them in for a face-to-face session, and it comes out. This is what's going on.
It must be so toxic for these people. I mean, they're already, pretty broken, aren't they, because of the addictions, and even for us who are relatively, okay and healthy, well-being. I mean, it's been toxic for my mental health. So I couldn't imagine just how exaggerated that would be for an addict, an ongoing user.
And sometimes as well, Matt, what I was thinking around was around Christmas time. I really felt, because with the majority of my client base, the one time that they still get invited home, no matter what mess they're in, is Christmas.
Yeah.
So, and they get that day or two when they can get that feeling of belonging to a family unit, even if it's very brief. They didn't even have that this year.
Oh, tragic. It's like an anchor. It was like a projected future, an anchor for them. And that's even been taken away because of COVID. Oh, yeah. I mean, it's so multifaceted, isn't it? The whole environment and culture right across the board. But you're really on the cold face there with some very, very vulnerable people, aren't you? I do like that, what you say, like it's never a childhood dream to be a drug addict.
Unfortunately, it turns out a reality for a lot of people.
Sure. Now, we're not particularly necessarily going to focus on it, but if it comes up, but just to let people know who are listening to the podcast, Colin was an addict yourself for a long, long time.
Yeah, for about over 30 years.
30 years.
And spent the vast majority of my life from about 14 years of age onwards, street homeless as well.
Yeah.
And on drugs and in and out of various institutions where the locks were on the other side.
Yeah. Yeah, and dinner was very regular.
It was regular as in you got the same thing every Friday for the next 6 years.
To be fair, that sounds like my upbringing.
And mine. You had two choices when I was growing up: eat it or don't.
Anyway, on a Friday, what did we used to have like a hot pot dinner every Friday.
Oh, come on. Yeah.
I'm sure it was slightly better quality than Her Majesty's Pleasure.
Yeah. Yeah. It wasn't always endearing to look at or taste, but again, it was one of them environments that if I hadn't have gone there on so many occasions, I probably wouldn't be alive. It probably saved my life on many occasions.
Interesting.
Actually getting sent away and having that time mostly separated from that, and at least allowing the body to heal physically.
Yeah.
It didn't help the mind.
No.
But it gave the body a bit of time to heal, and that's
interesting.
I'm still alive and be able to come in and get to where I got to the point where enough was enough, and then God intervened and just sort of took the reins and went, right, we want you to do some good, and we want you to
do no, it's an incredible story. I mean, for 7 years we've seen that story unfold, but just your health and your well-being, and it's, I don't know, maybe I'm not saying, I don't know, I'm not like an expert, but it just seems like the 12 steps, especially mixed with a newfound faith in Christ through the 12 steps, seems to be a really potent force for good in the life of an addict.
Yes. I mean, I say this to people and you know what, and it's a saying that's very, very common in fellowship, because at the moment there's no real face-to-face 12-step meetings. I still connect with guys that I sponsor, and I connect with my sponsor, and I've got friends that are in meetings and stuff like that. But the book that we work from makes it very, very clear my dependence has to be on God.
Yeah.
Because them guys might not be around, but in moments of darkness, the one thing I can always rely on and I have to depend on is God.
Yeah, it's incredible. Yeah, it's amazing. Amazing. I mean, I one of my things that I say to the group who are in the church, I said it to you, I think, in the past, that I think really most Christians should be living a 12-step life anyway. Because it's got
humans should.
Yeah, 100%. But I think the discipline and the structure of the 12 steps are a discipleship. I mean, it's from the Oxford group, isn't it? So it's a 12 steps. There's something about that. It's a discipleship, way for the addict. And if we followed the steps as non-addicts, I think it would really benefit us as well, because they're just it's just written in stone.
When you strip it back to as you say, going back to the Oxford group and all that kind of stuff, it was 95% Christians.
Yeah, sure.
And if you really look and study the 12-step program, and you can see it all comes from the Bible. It really does.
No, when I hear you talk about it, or other people in the church talk about it, and different recovery people, it just rings lots of little Christian bells all the way through: making amends, confession, being proactive in rebuilding relationships if possible, and actually some of the stuff I suppose that you've had to do has been, oh mate, I can't imagine what you've had to do and say sorry for. And yet it really helps your but it must, the healing that comes from it.
So as the healing comes, I mean, I've spoken to you about this in depth quite a lot, is the healing that's come with my father, with my dad, who and you know the story. I walked out my dad's house when I was 14 years old to go to school or to go to the youth club or whatever it was. I can't remember specifically where I was going. And I didn't go home till I was 40. Really?
Yeah.
I went to London and to see if the streets were paved with gold. Now, and I've said it to you before as well. A few years ago when I went home for Christmas first time, and my dad was getting spoiled and all this, and he was sitting there, and it was, what is the best present you had this Christmas? And everything was competitive, and he went, the best present I have got now is when I wake up in the morning for the first time in over 30 years, the first thought in my mind isn't, is my wee boy alive? That healing. So as I heal and I get better, those that care about me.
I love the community of that. Yeah, I hear what you're saying. I love the impact of it. I love the ripple effect out from Christ in you, the healing in you, and the ripple effect into the world that heals others as well.
And then
so
we
powerful.
Get to witness that. We get to witness that, and the guys that we work with and sponsor, and watch their lives rebuild, and watching someone coming in who is absolutely battered and broken and has no hope and no belief in themselves, and their self-esteem's at a place where they're beating themselves. They don't need anyone to tell them how useless they are, because they've been telling themselves that for so long.
It's incredible.
Come in and rebuild. And to people talk about what I've spoke to you about previously, it's not about the external. It's about that inner peace. When I can wake up in the morning, I remember the first time really when I looked in the mirror and thought, you know what, you're okay. I like that person. That took 4 or 5 years.
I'm sure.
That, to watch that happen in other guys.
You know what I mean? And because of the service you offer them and the volunteering and the sponsorship, it's a well-oiled machine, the 12 Steps program. I know there are other ones too, which might be just as effective. Which are incredible. But for you,
for me,
it's incredible to see the impact of this well-oiled machine that's a very formulated and has been sort of shaped and molded over a long time, and it just works well if you take ownership of it and take ownership of that faith element of it. Then bam, it can change your life forever.
I mean, it's very clear in the book that we work from as well, and so it talks about. I'm going to sit and quote the book, but it's the book is very specific and very clear that lack of power is our dilemma. We had to find a power by which we could live, and it had to be a power greater than ourselves. Obviously, well, that is the main purpose of this book. The main purpose is to connect you to God. It's for no other reason.
It's great.
You get connected to God, all else can happen. If you're not connected, it can't.
And in some ways, it's a spectrum, isn't it? So your life as an addict is an extreme life, and you're right over there on the spectrum. But for people who are in the middle of the spectrum, or moving along the spectrum, it's the same message. It's the same message for me. It was a Warrington lad, grew up in a reasonably nice home. I'm just a human being. Pretty normal. I'm not an addict. I haven't got a big story. But however, that God-shaped hole was still there in me, and I had to recognize that my life is more fulfilled and more fruitful with God in it, and allow God to take control. Do you know what I mean? It's just that your experiences are just so much more exaggerated and on steroid. Well, not literally on steroid. Well, maybe.
They're just so visible. I mean, even in the time that you've known Garrett and myself and Lee and Vicky, you've seen us change and grow.
Huge. And
that.
It's an ongoing work.
That is evidence. People say that this is not an evidence-based program. It is.
Yes.
And I remember speaking to you before when I was doing my pre-baptism classes them years ago, and we were talking about demonstrations of faith. yeah, and it was about you were saying is we demonstrate our Christianity by our actions, not by running around the streets with big placards and telling people where to go to. So it's the same. It's the same in the 12-step program.
Yeah,
we demonstrate by action.
Yeah, and by being a healthy recovery, being in health.
About attraction rather than promotion.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Totally agree. Absolutely, and we see it in you, definitely 100%. So that was awesome, and now we're going to get frivolous because we're just going to try and get to know you a little bit better as well. But thank you, Colin, for sharing. That was amazing. Yeah. So good. So the first question for you, Colin, is: have you got any phobias? Have you got any phobias?
That's question 2.
Hey, I'm rambling. I'm rambling.
Excellent. So phobias. I had to think about this, and no,
that's good.
I don't have a fear of heights or mice or spiders, or I have a fear of night trainers.
If people don't know, Colin has got a really nice collection of Adidas shoes. He's Adidas all the way.
Some of them are in the church at the moment.
Yeah,
no, I don't have phobias, man. No, I had to really sit and think. There must be something. I don't have a phobia of needles. I don't have a phobia of being alone. I don't have a phobia of anything. No. There's certain things I don't like, but phobias, no.
That's good. It's not a bad thing. It's a good answer to say no.
Yeah.
I have got one. I've got a phobia of jewelry.
I know. Someone said to me once, "Does Matt wear a cross?" And I went, "No, he doesn't wear jewelry."
No. I wear a wedding ring. The only thing I wear is a wedding ring. I can't touch jewelry. It's disgusting.
Is that?
There's a story behind it, but that's for another day, probably.
Yeah, probably.
Because I do think phobias are often linked to some sort of scar tissue in the past. Like waking up with a rat on your face or something, or like they're based in some sort of rational thinking. But my jewelry one is I think jewelry, I don't like the texture, but also I don't like the smell. And obviously jewelry doesn't smell, but for some reason in my fevered childish brain, that little boy called Matt somehow linked smell with texture. And like, if somebody put a necklace in my hand, it's like, I can just about do it, but no.
Rather not.
No. But I mean, if I was a pirate, it would be a problem.
It would be. Yeah. Or a pawnbroker.
Yeah, exactly. But generally, no. And interestingly, my wedding ring has never been a problem, but I think that's probably because of the significance and of it. So.
And heaven would you happy if you took it off?
No, true. There's that as well. That's where the phobia is. Yeah. No, so that's good that you haven't got a phobia. That's really, really good. Okay, next question then. If I need to check what my questions are. Oh, right. Okay then. So if you went to a record player right now, or asked Alexa or pressed your iPod or whatever you've got that stores your music, what music would play? What song would play?
I had to think about it. I've got such an eclectic taste in music. But I think what at the moment, I don't know if you know. Do you know Beth Orton?
Yeah. I've not heard it for a long time, but yeah.
Stars All Seem to Weep.
Hold on a minute. This is the moment where I get it for you. What's it called?
Stars All Seem to Weep.
Because I know Beth Orton because I love the Chemical Brothers. And on her first album, Exit Planet Dust, she did quite a lot of work with the Chemical Brothers back in the day in the 90s.
Lady from Norwich or something, isn't she?
Can you hear that?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's got a good vibe. This like mid-90s music. It had a really good chill vibe, didn't it?
Yeah. This was off the kind of Central Reservation album, and which was
my
favorite album by Beth Orton. Voice.
Yeah, very good.
Auntie.
Yeah.
can imagine me pre-recovery sitting in a little squat somewhere going,
to the bed for pre-recovery.
Yeah.
No, it was quite druggy music. Well, I mean, in that sense, wasn't it? It was a lot of weed back then. I mean, I went to university in 1989, and my sort of personal experience of sort of drugs was in 1989. I was walking the streets of Stoke, couldn't find an ounce of weed or black anywhere. It was like a wilderness time, and you really had to find it in '89.
Yeah.
And they used to say, "Oh no, it's going to be a couple of weeks and all this," in all the pubs with my mates. But then by 1992, when I left university, it was a wash with it. It was just everywhere. You could get drugs whenever you wanted it. And that little 3-year period, I think, was the gateway opened, and then bam, yeah.
Whereas with like heroin and stuff like that, it kind of kicked in really big in the early mid 80s.
Yeah. But I mean, for the general populace, do you know what I mean? Like general populace drug taking, recreational.
I remember
it was always there.
You had to go to someone's flat and as you say, can I get a quarter squidgy black? And it'd be, on Tuesday.
Yeah, exactly. Now you could just probably go 3 doors down and just knock on the door and say, "Have you got any squidgy black?" I like that anyway.
Remember the squidgy black? Yeah. Stuff like that.
Yeah, no, but I do think those years there was when, for just the general populace, drugs just like a tidal wave came into society.
And then alongside that came I seen that I never got involved in, which was the acid house and the ecstasy. I never got into it. Too lovey-dovey and touchy-feely and all that. Why would you want to smile? Why would you want to smile and hug? I never got that.
I mean, I dabbled with most stuff at that sort of age, but I soon realised that I didn't need it to bounce around. It's just, I was still stood on tables banging trays on my head semi-naked in pubs, and I didn't have any drugs in me. And that was just because I won the pinball competition for that week.
Yeah, nothing massive.
You know what I mean?
I'd love to hear some stories of you meet some of your friends from uni.
Funnily enough, I remember those stories more than I remember everything. No, it's an interesting one. That have you got any other ones? That's a lovely one. That's a good choice.
I mean, another one, and in case so I was born in 1966.
Yeah.
Right. So when I started secondary school, punk rock hit. My favorite album of all time.
Yeah.
That I've never ever tired of.
Okay.
And my dad must know as much as I do about it because I used to annoy him when he used to ground me, and I just play Inflammable Material, Stiff Little Fingers.
Stiff Little Fingers.
And a really short one is I know every lyric to every song on it.
Really?
But
what album was it? What album?
Inflammable Material.
Oh.
Stiff Little Fingers.
What's a good song that you love of there?
That you can play on this.
That's all right. I'll beep it.
Wasted Life.
Okay, let me find it. I like this is. There we go. I've got it. So what year was Stiff Little Fingers then? Mid-70s?
Late 70s, early 80s. They were the first ever band to chart with an independent label album. This album. Irish punk band.
Nice.
Jack Burns.
Yeah.
A wee bit of swearing going to come in. I mean, I remember
we're all grown ups on this podcast.
Lee from the Idols, and he loves Stiff Little Fingers.
Oh mate, the Idols are absolute quality. I've got tickets for their May gig in Cardiff, but I can't see it happening.
I can't believe how massively well he's done.
It's too early yet, I think. If you haven't listened to the Idols, the Bristol band, they're absolutely fantastic. But I've always liked a little bit of anger in my music. I'm not really a lyricist. I don't like melody particularly. I like beats and I like rhythms, but like Prodigy for me were huge. And I always there's always, and I've, like I say, recently the Idols have really keyed into that. It's just that frustrated anger at the world
And I guess I was lucky. I mean, I hit secondary school when punk hit, 1977.
Yeah.
A time to be I was rebellious anyway, but what a time to be a rebellious kid.
Did you see anybody live like that?
Oh, I saw most of them. I've seen Steph about 20 times.
Have
I saw
you?
the Clash quite a lot. I saw the Ramones and, UK subs. I love Charlie Harper. In Jelly Copsarts. Then I got into the kind of oi stuff and all that as well, and then got wrapped up in some naughtiness that I shouldn't have done. And I've always loved music. I mean, part of what we used to do was just sneak into gigs and sneak into festivals. And
was this when you were in Scotland or when you were in London?
No, I come to London when I was 14.
Oh, sure. So it was London then, yeah. Wow. Yeah. What a time to be in London, 70s, 80s.
Yeah, in Kings Road, Piccadilly, all the punks and skinheads and the mods and going up Carnaby Street and having disagreements with people and stuff. It was an amazing time to be alive. And You know, I have a thing about how people dress. I'm very judgmental on how people dress and all that kind of stuff. And I was talking to someone about it today, a GP who dresses a bit funny. And then I had to remember 1981, I had a Mohican. I was wearing tartan bondage trousers. I had a chain from my nose to my ear. And I'm judging someone for wearing flares.
Hey. Let me just say that you're right to judge them.
I know. Especially when them flares that come halfway up their ankle.
Oh, that's hilarious. Yeah. Wow. Oh, mate, have you got well, I know we can't do it on the podcast, but have you got any photographs of you back then with your Mohican?
Oh, thank God.
No. Yeah. Oh no, it'd be awesome. You'd be like a smash on Instagram now. You'd be absolutely mega rich.
There's probably some around somewhere. I'm kind of lucky. I just remember really one day, it was 1979, and I'd done my first real Class A substance. And next week it's 2012, and I'm in Bristol. What happened in between happened. Yeah. And I can remember little bits of it. So chronologically, I can't really put it together. Which is a good thing, but slowly it's coming back.
Yeah. Oh, that's incredible, isn't it? That's like 30 years, just a smudge of memory. Interesting. Oh, that's a great answer. Now, I am surprised that you didn't bring up any Amy Winehouse.
Too obvious for me, I think.
Oh, good. You're thinking out of the box for the podcast. This is what we like. Yeah, Colin loves Amy.
If you know me, I love Amy Winehouse.
Did you ever meet her in real life?
I bumped into her once in a pub in Camden, but she was an absolute mess. Yeah. And this was in the days when she was using Class A's. And she looked rough because she was a stunningly beautiful woman when she was stunningly beautiful. Yeah. And her talent was beyond. Yeah. That voice came from a tortured soul. Yeah. And them lyrics, I loved it that she wrote 99% of her stuff herself. Yeah, of course, she was brilliant. And mixing all them genres and trailblazer, really. I mean, she opened up that market for Adele and many, many other people because of her voice. Yeah. And just so tragic and so sad that she was so broken by her addictions, wasn't it? And she was tortured. She was tortured by abandonment and a lust for affection. And I don't mean that in a sexual way. I mean she wanted to be loved for her and try to find that in the wrong places and it led to her demise. And she was. I still miss Amy a lot. When I moved into where I'm living now, my Amy picture come with me. We don't have anywhere to put it, but it's not something I'd really ever want to get rid of. No, it's a cool one. I saw it the other day. It's a really cool picture. And she's a brilliant artist. Often. Yeah. But again, I think Amy Winehouse I know she's not punk. No, but there's a rebellious, there's the heart of it and the soul of punk is definitely there. Yeah. Even though she used sort of like Motown and different, that's different genre. That frustration, that anger, that whatever that was in the punk, trying to see. And a great social commentary. I mean, I can go into. I love the Smiths. Yeah. You know what I mean? Morris has turned into whoever he is. Yeah. But but the social commentary, that's why I loved punk. A lot of the social commentary, Stiff Little Fingers were great social commentators. Amy Winehouse was a great social commentator. I love Bob Dylan, what a great social commentator. Neil Young, I love it.
Yeah.
I love Oasis.
Yeah.
You know, I love Ian Brown. I love the Verve. I'm like you. I love music that actually means something. Like drum and bass and acid house meant nothing to me.
Yeah.
Even stuff like heavy metal, I like.
Yeah, no, sure. It's not. I wouldn't. It's not my go-to place of music. No. I wouldn't listen to heavy metal, but when it's on, I don't mind it. I tell you, I watched a brilliant documentary of Ozzy Osbourne the other day, The 7 Ages of Ozzy Osbourne on iPlayer. Watch it; it's unbelievable. I won't go on about it here, but actually, you know, again, that's it's separate from what's going on around at the time. It's different. It's on the different polarized, you know, it's on the other different, it's not like pop, it's not shawaddy waddy. It's like bam, you know.
I read a biography of Ozzy and it was written, and the guy was talked to the people that knew him just before he joined Sabbath, and they had heard of this lunatic called Ozzy Osbourne who was a good singer, and they went to try and have a word with him, and they had to go out and find him. He was out taking his bath tap for a walk on a dog lead. And that's what, so different.
Yeah, different.
Slightly odd.
Oh, watch that documentary. It's absolutely amazing. It's an eye-opener. Awesome. So they were great answers. So, okay, let's get all biblical. So who is your favorite biblical character? And you can't say Jesus.
No. It's a prodigal son.
Okay, yeah, that's a good one. Yeah,
and it's and I had to think about it since we agreed that I was going to do this, and there was so many, and I kind of thought, let me make something that is relatable to me.
Yeah.
And I'll kind of explain a little bit around. So I grew up in a very loving family. And there was my brother, and there was myself. My sister was just born, and I just disappeared, and disappeared into the wilderness. Went and done what the prodigal son done, and my brother was the center. He was the loyal son who was there for my dad and for my mum, and to bring up my little sister, and he was there, and he was the center of attention. And then I come back, and there's this celebration. We've got. It's an uncomfortable, because it's still kind of like that with some members of my family. He never shuts up about Colin. My dad is immensely proud of the person I've become.
It's great.
And he talks about me to his friends, and who are all in their 80s and all that. And I'll go to my friend's house, and my dad will say, "This is my youngest," and they'll go, "Oh, you're Colin." Prodigal son's return.
Fame at last. Yeah, but I think that's a really interesting point, in the sense of, you know, I know it's a parable, but it's, you know, it's like series 2 of the prodigal son story. You know, like after the party's over and they get back to normal life.
I turned into this now I feel as someone who is here to serve.
There's a humility there, and a service has arisen because of your journey.
And ultimately, I'm not really. I kind of, my thoughts have to be, how can I help others? You know, and I'm not talking about what I get paid for.
No.
I'm into that role partly because of that.
Yeah.
But I'm talking about what I can do in my personal life, and to help others. You've seen what we're like, and you know, if the guys that you know who are in recovery or at church, if there was anything needed done.
Oh, 100%. Amazing. Yeah.
We were always there. So
yeah. It was quite, the word you used, you know, that uncomfortable word, I think says a lot about your right heart and your right spirit going back in. Because my thing about the prodigal son story is always, if he'd have rocked up or like, "Hey, I'm home, you know, I'm back," the father would have been like, "Oh, no, you're not, you know, bye," you know. But the father welcomes him home, because the prodigal son's spirit and countenance and very person is just right. Humbled, ashamed, maybe not ashamed, but sorry, apologetic, you know, a different person.
But I feel saved by grace.
Yeah, no, yeah, 100, yeah. Yeah, but because when you came back and sat with your dad or sat with your family, you're not the Colin that went away. You became a different person because of grace. Yeah. Yeah. I like that, Colin. It's a really good one. Yeah. I can see it in you as well. I mean, definitely. The prodigal son's a good one. But I like that idea that idea that when you came home, that was the Colin that needed to come home. You know, you couldn't be the brash, rebellious.
At the time I needed to become home. Yeah, and with that kind of broken soul and broken heart, where I was ready to become united with family again, to become united with the people who had loved me and cared about me, and you know, after disappearing and being rebellious and making it all about me and what I wanted, and what I felt I needed to do in order to be Colin, and to come back and go, I'm lost.
Yeah. The honesty, the authenticity, the apologetic spirit, the humility. They're all the ingredients you needed to rebuild those relationships because of grace. And that's the prodigal story, isn't it? That would have continued in the home when he was back. Series 2 would have been rebuilding relationships because he was that person. Yeah, it's cool that, mate. Yeah, I love that. That's a good one. Really good one. So the follow-on question is, what worship song is really significant for you? Have you got a favorite?
This is ever changing. I've changed my mind 3 times today.
We can play a couple.
So initially, and again, it's relevant to me is Broken Vessels.
Yeah, bro.
Especially the live version in Israel.
Okay, I don't think I've got that. I'll play this one. And we'll fast forward it a little bit. Then we'll turn the sound up.
The words are absolutely mind-blowing and
spine tingling. Yeah. The good ones rise to the top. This is a good one.
See, this girl, I mean, when I show this to people on YouTube, and I'm saying, this woman is not singing.
Yeah.
She's worshipping.
Yeah.
And it's evident to me. She's been transformed. She's lit up all the time when she's been and I've watched some interviews with her, and the minute she's talking about the Holy Spirit, she
lights up. You're right. Yeah, this is a well-written. I was saying on the Gabe podcast when I interviewed Gabe, and the most important thing about these people is if they're worshipping on stage, then it's our responsibility how we receive it. If we just go and it's a concert, it's our responsibility because our heart isn't right. But if we're in that auditorium, that theatre, that church, that congregation, and they're worshipping and we partner in their worship, then you can have all the lights you want and all the bass guitars and all the drums. But if we're in partnership in that moment, then I think that is the key.
I remember even when we went to see Bethel.
Yeah.
And then we went up to Bath to see Bethel in concert, and that was special. But then I think more of do you know Lauren Daigle?
Yeah.
So you say, and again, it's a personal thing. But I give because she has such an amazingly raspy, soulful voice.
Bit of a Beth Orton again.
But you say it's such an amazing track.
Yeah.
But
let me fast forward it a little bit.
Yeah.
293 million Spotify listens. That's a lot.
lyrics are...
Again, it's got a hint of Amy Winehouse to it. Yeah. Imagine Amy Winehouse singing this. She'd be like dead.
Yeah.
That would be the end of Colin.
I'd be ruined, wouldn't I? I'd be ruined. Life's complete.
And what is it about that song that you like the best?
I first heard her at a time in my life. Hold on, someone's on my phone. Yeah, I'll call you back. When it's sort of like coming and even when I don't believe in me, you do. When I think I'm bringing nothing, you say I am. And it's sort of like, because I'm someone who can... The odd person in the world has described me as a bit complex.
Aren't we all?
Yeah, and I can be quite tightly strung.
Yeah.
You know, I can.
Yeah.
And I was at a time when I discovered this lady when me and Garrett at the house. We were sharing a house.
Yeah.
My growth kind of come. It was... I'm not just listening to the lyrics and aspiring to them. I'm listening to the lyrics and having faith and belief in them.
Yeah. It's transformative.
They came true to me.
Yeah.
Instead of believing this could happen, it has happened.
Yeah. Oh, mate, that's awesome. I love that.
You know, so it's
so good to hear. Yeah. It's like ownership. It's ownership. Yeah.
And it's like the book.
That happened to me when I was in faith, and I didn't feel like... I came from a charismatic background, and they kept going on about being born again, Holy Spirit, receiving the Holy Spirit. And I never really... I didn't know what that meant, or I didn't even know if that had happened. And then I went to one church meeting, and it wasn't like I received it. It was almost like God sort of parted some curtains and said, "You've had it all along." And in that moment, I took ownership of it, and it was set. But it had already been there.
Yeah.
It's just that I hadn't trusted in it, or I didn't take ownership of it.
Like my heart hadn't connected fully with it. You know, I believed, and I believed when I witnessed it in other people that it was real. But that massive... Actually.
Yeah. And that song was one of those moments.
Yeah.
And it's like you say, "I am this."
I didn't believe I was.
Yeah. Even though I don't believe it, or even though I've got things in my life that might not reflect it, you say, "I'm a child of God." You say...
His word is true. His word is true.
Yeah. It's good that.
Even when I'm doubting it, he's there. I remember speaking to you once before, and you were talking about how in the back of a lot of Bibles, it's got that circle, and his epicenter. We can be out right up to the wall, but as long as we're still within that wall, we're still with him. And that's what I kind of think was happening there. I was probing and questioning faith.
Yeah.
And when it ultimately got to it, it was, okay, you say this, I don't believe it at times, but then it was actually, you say it, your word is true, your promises are true.
Yeah, so believe it, live in it,
so
embrace it.
Actually, the last little kind of vestiges of rebellion and questioning was, you say it must be true.
Yeah, it's great.
No matter what I think, you say it, therefore it is.
Yeah.
I am has said it.
And who am I, a mere human mortal, to deny what you say? So I'll just own it. Yeah. Love it, mate. It's great.
The last little...
Yeah.
I can't explain it well, man, but it kind of...
No, you are explaining it. Colin, you're explaining it perfectly. It's really good. Yeah, I love that. Yeah. Wow. That's a really significant song then. That is very precious to you and amazing, yeah. Well, where do we go from there? Well, I'll tell you where we go from there. What is your spirit animal?
You're gonna laugh. I was talking to Lynn about this earlier. My partner, for those who don't know, she's very amazingly puts up with me. Hedgehog.
Good one. Yes, this is what I like. A hedgehog. Why?
Because I'm a bit prickly.
Nice.
You know, and I have this I can have this outer protective. You're not getting close to me. You're not getting near to me. But inside, I'm soft as
yeah.
You know, and I just so you know when the hedgehogs go to hibernate, I just want to cuddle up and be comfortable.
Yeah.
But I've got them spikes out that for decades protected me.
Yeah.
Served me well.
Yeah. In the context you were in, you needed big spikes, more porcupine than hedgehog, probably.
Yeah. And hedgehogs are quite lonely. They're not great mate. Yeah, so I was that kind of isolated out there, not very well, not much to look at. Very kind of you see a hedgehog, you don't want to go up and cuddle it, do you?
No. Well, it's sort of like a distant sort of like, oh, there's a hedgehog. Oh, but you don't go up and pick it up. Do you know what I mean? It's like, oh, look at that.
I ever had people look at me and go, oh, definitely didn't want to come and pick me up or cuddle me. So this is yeah, a hedgehog or porcupine, something like
I think it's really good.
Inside, I'm made of the same stuff as you.
Yeah, sure.
I have the same organs. I have the same feelings. I have the same. But that protective, I can't let you see that.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Do you feel that your spines are getting shorter?
Oh yeah.
Or are they the same size? It's always good to have a bit of hedgehog.
It's like someone's used a pair of clippers on them, but it's still at a number 2.
Yeah. Probably a good thing there.
Yeah.
Number 2's a good cut.
Yeah.
I mean, in the sense of, I think sometimes we all do need a bit of a protective, you know, especially to the harsh realities of today's world. And it's good to have a little bit, maybe a number 1, maybe a number 1 spike.
Number 1 is what I get normally, but I let it grow out to about a number 3, and then as I start looking like a hippie, and it's like, ooh, and it's time to change. I'll start buying a tie-dye t-shirt.
Oh, you're talking to the wrong person. The other day, I said to Daisy, I said, right, if I start my finger there, tell me when there's hair. So if you're not watching this live, but you're watching it, if you're listening to it, I took my finger and I dragged it back like this, and it went right back to the top of my head, and then it went right back there to a nape. I've literally got an inch band of hair left. I'm bald. I've got the biggest forehead in the world. All bald people have got beards. There's no surprise. It's the guess who thing, isn't it? You've got to balance your brain. Got to balance it. Okay, that was a great answer. I like that. You're not a unicorn. You're not some amazing beast.
No.
You're a hedgehog, Cole. I like that. It's a good answer. All right. So, what is your favorite film? What's your favorite film? Might not be the best one. It might not be the best one ever, but something that you love, your favorite film.
A film I never ever tire of watching. There's 2, but if you're talking just acting wise and a subject matter, With Null and I.
Oh, great! Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, well, yeah. There's an element of familiarity to that tale, I would think.
But you know, it was one of them films I watched. I believe the characters.
Yeah, it's a brilliantly written film. Brilliant.
And it's dark, and it's in Camden, and it's 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 not pretentious. There's no glorious end to it.
Yeah. A classic British downbeat at the end.
Yeah, and I'm known to be quite a miserable git. So it's quite a miserable film, isn't it?
But extremely amusing at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, when he pulled out the Camberwell carrot, remember but the characters were just real and believable and authentic, and there was they didn't go on to be superstars, and they were just miserable feeling actors who drank too much and got up to naughtiness and lived in dives.
Yeah.
And Nicole wrapped up with about 5 jackets, burning scripts, and it
is it's almost like, you got the kitchen sink dramas of the 1960s, I can't remember the famous ones, or like the Mike Lee ones of the 80s and the 90s. But they were sort of very working class sort of works, whereas With Nail and I is almost like a kitchen sink drama, sort of aspiring middle class actors, failing act. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, there's something about it that is very authentic, taken from real life, isn't it? Good film, that. It's a good film.
I love it. It's some. I don't. I thought I'm due to watch it again it's on Amazon or something.
Yeah,
I'm due to watch that again. It's a film that stays with me.
What film have you watched the most? Like, what film have you watched the most?
You know, this is another one. It's going to be about Property Commitments.
The Commitments.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah, good one. That's a good film.
I'm hoping that we get to see it on stage next year, isn't it? It's
oh, that'll be good. A very good film. Yeah, that's quite a forgotten film, really. You don't really remember The Commitments, but great film. Yeah.
I love The Commitments. I could come out with Warriors or Saving Private Ryan or nah.
I watched do you know what? I watched The Warriors about 3 weeks ago for the 20th time. It's still good.
It's a great film.
And it's a good film. But anyway, like I said on a previous podcast that I filmed, I could talk about films all day. That's the danger of this. But so With Nail and I, that's a good choice.
And I think that was the first film that Hughie Grant
Richard E. Grant.
Probably Richard Grant, realised his potential.
Oh yeah, definitely, yeah.
I think it went downhill after that.
It was a breakthrough movie.
He got more famous, but I think
he got more famous. He did, but whether his films carried on at that same sort of level of quality, yeah. Oh, it was great, brilliant, great choice, mate. Great choice. So, you've committed a heinous crime, and you're now in jail, and unfortunately, they're going to offer you your last meal ever on Earth. And so you get a beginner, you get a main, and you get a starter. So what would be your last meal on Earth?
I was talking about this, and I don't do starters, but I guess I don't really have starters because I like big mains and big puddings.
Okay.
But if I guess I like something simple like pakora.
Yeah. Okay, like an Indian pakora.
Yeah, because I'm allowed to mix what I have, isn't it?
Oh yeah. It's your last meal. I mean, my thing is eat as much as you can, so they've got a lot of mess to clear up afterwards.
Yeah, because it opens up, doesn't it? So, main is I'm sorry for all the vegetarians and vegans and all. It's got a bit of steak, a bit of rump steak.
Yeah.
Chips,
quality.
Onion rings, peppercorn sauce, mushy peas. Yeah.
You've definitely thought this through.
Yeah.
And how do you have your steak?
Medium, just a little bit of blood.
Medium. Yeah.
A bit of blood. I don't like it too raw. I don't like it flash fried. I don't like it fried too. I like it red.
Yeah. But just a nice little pink through the middle.
Yeah, and my favourite pudding. I'm quite old. I'm old fashioned. I grew up with this. Jam, roly-poly, and custard.
Yeah, why not? It's a great classic.
It's hot, but no, jam, roly-poly, and homemade custard.
It's a classic. It's a classic.
In a chipped bowl.
In a chipped bowl.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's reminiscing memories just before the end.
Yeah.
Chip bowl.
Yeah.
I like that. I'm not really a dessert person at all, so I wouldn't choose something like that. I'd have a cheesecake or something lighter and a bit more savory-ish. But you go in for the proper sweet custard. Thick, thin, medium custard.
No, really, really, really thick. So sort of stuff you can't pour out. You need to put it out with a spoon.
Yeah. This is it.
Solid. It doesn't drip down the sides. You have to push it over the sides because it's really thick.
I agree with you.
Stodgy jam rolling, homemade. Jam rolling, poly, really stodgy, thick, suety. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you eat it and you
go. Ready for the end. Full up, ready for the end.
Yeah, team. I'm going to fall asleep. Just do it then.
I love
full
it.
and content and just full of my best foods and
I think food is one of those things that just it's very memory, like it's so significant to us humans. Like I just I just read Mark chapter 5 of Mark out on the online service a bit ago. I'm just reading through Mark. I'm not doing a sermon or anything like that. I'm just reading the Bible out loud. It's good. And it's actually good, but at the end of it, it's when he heals Jairus's daughter in the in the story. Jesus heals Jairus's daughter from she's dying, and then Jesus says at the end, right, just don't tell anybody like this. Enjoy this healing, and get her something to eat. And it's just so interesting to me that at the very forefront of Jesus's mind at that point is not only a spiritual healing and not only a physical healing, but there's something very human. Right now, get her something to eat.
Bit of grub now.
Get her a bit of grub. She needs it. I love that. It really came out in bold as I was reading it tonight. Yeah, just get her something to eat. Just let her be human. And food's very much part of who we are, the fabric of our humanity.
I like food.
Yeah, I do. Sadly, too much sometimes, but
again, I can go into the complexities, what happens with a lot of people when they come into recovery around food. Comfort eating and
oh yeah,
go fast. People, I don't mean fast in a healthy religious way. I mean they get into the bodybuilding and the gyms.
Yeah.
So food it's almost always a battle. Me, I just eat.
You just took ownership of that as well. You take ownership of God saying, "You are my child," and then you're like, "And I love eating. I'm having that. Don't take that away from me."
No. I like my food.
That's good.
I'm lucky. I'm not a fussy eater. I eat just about anything.
It's great. Oh yeah, brilliant. Great choice. So you're gonna have a pakora, sort of Indian starter. You're gonna have a classic steak, rump steak, medium with all the trimmings, and a jam roly-poly
sauce. Needs HP sauce as well.
And HP sauce, good choice.
Yeah.
And then a jam roly-poly with big fat dollops of thick custard on top.
The stuff that when you put it on top of the jam roly-poly, it solidifies in about 4 seconds.
Oh yeah, it's good. It's good. Stodgy, but home and childhood. Like the end of Ratatouille when he has that Ratatouille, that critic, and he goes and he goes back in time. That'll be you with your jam roly-poly.
Hopefully I'll go back in time when they haven't caught me and they're not going to kill me anyway.
Yeah, sadly, just in your brain. So, Colin, you've been a brilliant guest. We probably haven't done all the questions, but we've been talking about loads of other amazing stuff. So the last question is, and we always like to end on an upbeat, is, okay, 10 months, and it's going to carry on for a few months. COVID has been very much part of our lives. What would you like to continue after COVID? What is good about this COVID experience that you want to hold on to? Is anything been good?
This is just from me witnessing from what I see in my personal life, in my work life, and any people I know, and this is not by any means everybody, or probably not even the majority, but that there has been a sense of for a lot of people realizing the true value of life, of the importance of memories, of making lasting memories, and I think one of the most important things that I'm seeing and witnessing and believing is, I think there's a lot of people have let go of the reservations about love.
Okay.
I think that's people are scared, so they're saying stuff that they may not have been saying before. I think people are valuing intimate relationships, whether that be with God, whether that be with family, whether that be with the old lady who lives next door.
Yeah.
Thinking about how can I get her something from Sainsbury's?
Yeah.
When Lynn moved in here and she just went, no, that asked the neighbour if she could get anything from Sainsbury's. That was quite alien to her.
Yeah, sure.
And I think we can grow up in a world, or we have been over the last 30, 40 years, where being selfish, self-sufficient,
individual,
caring human beings kind of dissolve within a certain finger of people.
Yeah.
We're learning, I feel, the real fibre of family.
Yeah, and articulating it and seeking out more intimate relationships, more closer relationships, not just with the people around us, but like you say, the neighbours. And
I also kind of hope that we continue to grow. And I can struggle with it sometimes, but I see it in others, and it's amazing. And I'm getting better at it, but I don't profess to be the full rounded article.
sure.
Is kind of, I had to write down, have more patience and tolerance for those who are different to us.
Yeah.
In whatever way that may be. I mean, I don't just care for someone if they're a Christian. I don't just care for someone if they're an Arsenal fan. I don't just care for someone if they're a client.
Yeah.
So it's having the ability to look. I judge people the way they dress. I'm not talking about the external stuff. I'm talking about respecting others' beliefs and loving them for that. They have that.
So some sort of empathy to other people's layers because of COVID.
Whether I believe they are morally right.
Yeah.
Whether I believe deep down, I think I'm learning that, and I can struggle with it sometimes, but everyone has a right to be here.
Yeah.
And no matter what, even if someone hates me, or someone dislikes me, I had lots of confrontations go on at work during this COVID period and all that.
Yeah.
The thing that is always drawn back to me is God loves me.
Yeah.
He sees my differences, and the shepherd he abandoned the 99 and he went after the one.
Yeah. Yeah, it's good. It's good. So it's about people recognizing a deep need in them to gather in with others and find like a deeper resonance with them rather than just being individuals. Like we are part of a tribe and we need to look after that tribe. Yeah.
I mean, as I say, I sit and watch people that are isolated and lonely and on their own and mental health suffering from, and they've got no one who would even notice if they've been in the flat for 3 weeks dead.
Yeah.
That is James on the phone now. That is just that is.
Yeah.
I watch guys talking like the world. It's almost like they're in War of the Worlds, or they're in some sort of like disaster movie. It's almost as if the world has forgotten to look at their neighbours.
Yeah.
Everyone's so busy, and
I think again on the spectrum around COVID. Yeah, I think on the spectrum you're right. I think it happens to everybody. I think again you're dealing with people on very exaggerated lifestyles, and you probably see it in a more intense way. But I think for everybody, you're right. Over the last 30 years or so, we've been asked to sort of become individuals and drift away from community. And I think COVID has reminded us actually this deep need in humanity to be corporate people, to be together with others in some sort of tribe and the health around that, and to work at it and maintain it and cherish it. Yeah. Colin, that has been great. Thank you.
I didn't realize we've been talking for over an hour.
It is. I listen to podcasts that go on for 2 hours, and I used to think, how do they talk for 2.5 hours? Every podcast I've done up to now, when it gets to this mark, I've got to bring it to an end because you could just keep on talking and keep on. It's interesting, isn't it? So like Joe Rogan,
this was going to be 20 minutes.
Well, it could have been, and it doesn't really matter if it isn't. But actually, what you find is people are desperate for attention.
But it's also,
I'm only joking. That was a joke.
I find it's quite cathartic as well.
It is. I found it.
Makes me think about what I value and what I love and what I care about and what I treasure and what I miss and what I need to work on and what I need to look at in myself, which is not as good as it should be.
No.
Bit of moral inventory.
It's really good. And it's been so interesting. Thank you for sharing and being so open with us. It's so great to talk to you. And you've been a good guest. We might have you back.
Ooh. We'll do a revisit in 10 years' time.
Years' time. Where's Colin? Yeah. Drowning in jam, roly-poly and custard.
Yeah, he just departed this world fat. But content.
Well, mate, thank you. I'm going to press stop record, but don't go away quite yet. I'll say thank you afterwards, but thank you for being with the podcast. It's been great. Really, thank you very much. Appreciated. Bless you, mate. See you later.
Thank you.